Good morning. My name is Kiara Windrider, and I'm going to be speaking about cycles of Gaia's awakening. Everything that we experience within material creation is an extension of the Great Mother. Everything that we experience as consciousness is an embodiment of the Divine Father. And to understand life and the cycles of life, we must understand the dance of Creator within creation. And there are cycles that determine this activity. And we are going through a convergence of many of these cycles right now. So this is a time in human history when we are preparing for a massive awakening, as many of you are aware of. And much of this has to do with these cycles. There are spiritual cycles, there's universal cycles, there's galactic cycles, solar cycles, planetary cycles, cycles of human history, cycles of astrology. Many of these cycles are converging together. And what I'm going to speak about today is an understanding of how these cycles can allow us to participate more directly, more intentionally, more powerfully in this act of planetary evolution that we're going through. When I speak about planetary evolution, I'm referring to the Earth as a living being. Many talk about Gaia, the consciousness of this Earth, as a living system. So we could refer to the Earth as a soul with her own intentions, her own intelligence, her own plan for evolution. And we, as a human species, happen to be one aspect of Gaia, just like every other species on this planet. We have a unique role. We happen to be the nervous system of Gaia, which allows us to be a bridge between the worlds. So we're here to be a bridge between material reality and spiritual realities. We're here to be a bridge between the earth and the sky. We're here to be a bridge between body and spirit. We're here to be a bridge between creation and creator consciousness. Because we embody both. We are both creator and creation. We are both spirit and body, both heaven and earth. And our nervous system is designed so that when it's fully awakened and fully active, we can receive the full conscious awareness of who we are as the creator. This is the essence of all religions, of all spiritual traditions, of all shamanic cultures, to experience ourselves as one with all creation, until essentially we become aware that who we are is also beyond creation. So we experience our identity with the Great Mother as well as the Great Father. And all of this can be perceived in terms of cosmic cycles. So Sri Aurobindo, who was a mystic, a sage, a yogi in the last century in India, he was also a freedom fighter. He referred to universal cycles. He said that there has been 6 cycles that the entire universe has gone through. They're known as Mahakalpas, where there's been a phase of birthing and a phase of dissolution. A universe is created, the universe is destroyed and returns to essence. And then a new universe is created and returns to essence. This, he says, is now the 7th universe that we are entering into. And the uniqueness of this particular universal cycle is that it's not about creation and destruction so much as continual creation, progressive creation. There's no limits and no end. We can go all the way out as far as we wish to experience ourselves fully present as creator within creation. And what has been holding us back for all these ages past is the unconsciousness of matter. So when we as spirit enter into bodies, we lose awareness because matter has been somewhat unconscious. We have not been able to experience the fullness of who we are as spirit. As we enter into these bodies, we lose the immediacy, the fullness, the unity consciousness, where all things come together as one. So essentially, the last cycle of human history, the last 12,000 years, we've struggled with what we call duality. It's an illusion, it's not real, but it's the pretense that that we are separate. We're separate from the world around us, we're separate from each other, we're separate from God, we're separate from ourselves. This fragmentation is coming to a close. We're stepping out of this duality consciousness into a state of unity. So, the ancient Hindus talked about cycles of the yugas. These are 24,000 cycles, 24,000 year cycles, which have to do with progressing from ages of darkness into light, back into darkness and light. Some say this has to do with our journey as a solar system around our twin star, and then together journeying around the center of our galaxy. Some say our twin star is Sirius, and so as our Sun and Sirius rotate around each other in our evolution around the central axis of our galaxy, we actually, there are times when our Sun is closer to the center of the galaxy, which means we are in a Satyuga, an age of light. When Sirius is closer and our Sun is further away, that's an age of darkness. So it's like a looping movement around the center of our galaxy. Now there are galactic cycles separate from this one. Every 12,000 years, and is perhaps synchronized in some way, not that same number, 12, 24, where there's a burst of light, gamma rays, cosmic rays, from the center of our galaxy, moving out in concentric ripples across the Milky Way. These gamma rays, cosmic rays, are also carrier waves for cosmic intelligence. So what physicists like Paul Laviolette have been saying is that creation did not just happen once at the Big Bang, it's a continuous process. It happens every moment as Creator enters into creation and back out again. We are switching back and forth trillions of times every second, but also these galactic waves are like Big Bangs within these microcosmic cycles. And what happens is that every time there's a creative wave, a galactic superwave, new information becomes available for the entire galactic body. So every single star has consciousness. Every galaxy has consciousness, is consciousness. The universe is conscious. It's like a hologram, where every part of the hologram is connected and linked with every other part. Every part experiences itself as a reflection of every other part. In fact, when you go to the highest level, every part is the whole. That's what a hologram is really about. So we are simply reflecting the whole, and time is the doorway through which this potential becomes manifested. So through these galactic waves, a new wave of creation can be manifested. So as this galactic wave passes through our solar system every 12,000 years, there's a whole series of things that happens. I won't go into all the details of this, but it evokes a cycle within our sun, which then affects our Earth. There are solar cycles very directly connected with these galactic cycles. We are preparing for the next phase right now. Some say this could well be in 2046, where there's a massive coronal ejection. Some refer to a solar flash, where an entire outer shell of the sun explodes out through space, interplanetary space. And as it moves through our planetary space and through the Van Allen belts that protect and shield the Earth from solar and cosmic radiation, it creates massive distortion in the magnetic fields of the Earth. Our magnetic fields fluctuate from time to time. So the Earth's magnetic field is not a constant, it changes. There are times that it strengthens, there are times that it weakens, and this is like a sine wave. So when I refer to this 3 days of darkness, what we're talking about is the possibility that the Earth's magnetic field could flip around during this time. What scientists have been observing over time is that there's a gradual decline in the Earth's magnetic field over a long period of time. This becomes exponential until in the final phase of the reversal of the Earth's magnetic field, this can happen in an instant of geological time, a matter of hours, a matter of days. This could well be the 3 days of darkness that the Mayas, the Incas, and many other traditions speak about. Padre Pio speaks about this. So what happens during this magnetic reversal? And we'll get to this. Right now, what's happening? About 200 years ago, we began the process of decline in a very exponential way. We maybe lost 5% of the Earth's magnetic field strength in that 100 years. 100 years ago, from around 1900 to 2000, we lost another 5% of the magnetic field strength. And then, from 2000 to 2010, we lost another 5%. So now it's not even an arithmetic progression or decline. It's an exponential or geometric decline. So, and then from what we can predict from 2010 to 2015 or 16, we lost another 5%, and now the decline is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So if we go into the future, there's a possibility that we could completely lose our magnetic field strength in the next decade or two. It's like, we start off gradually, we fade exponentially, and then there's a last period of complete collapse and reversal. This complete collapse and reversal would be the 3 days of darkness that has been spoken about in all the prophecies. And this is the time, it's an evolutionary moment that's huge. Many of us have taken incarnation on this earth simply to experience this magnetic reversal. Because what happens during this? You might be aware that we are a number of different bodies interlocking together. Who we are is not just the physical body, not just the emotional or mental bodies, but there's a series of different bodies. So we can refer to the physical etheric body, we can refer to the subtle bodies, which include our thoughts, feelings, memories, sense of who we are. And then we have the causal body, which represents the soul, the Atman. All these bodies are held together through magnetic fields. It's precisely the Earth's magnetic field. And when the Earth's magnetic field begins to weaken, it also weakens the connection between these bodies. So how many of you have been experiencing that you're losing your minds, you can't remember things, emotions become very unstable, old traumas come up very quickly. We're going through a time of immense stress right now. The collective human consciousness is coming up to the surface to be released. So there's a lot of hidden aspects to who we are, which we've denied, which we've projected, which we've pushed away from awareness. And it's time now for all of this to come to the surface. So as these bodies begin to separate from each other, the inconscient, the unconscious aspects of who we are comes up to the surface. And we're seeing this. We're seeing this everywhere right now. Duality seems to be in full flower. There's wars, there's cycles of domination, oppression, control, lots of fear, lots of hopelessness and despair that we see in the world around us. What's happening this year with the COVIDian crisis is an example where suddenly it's like we're all pushed into our deepest fears of survival, fears of personal survival as well as planetary survival, as social survival, financial survival, political survival. All these things are connected together. Lack of trust in something that we can predict, in something that we can understand. And many of us are experiencing great despair. There's a lot of suicide. And you can obviously see the natural response from nature. There's natural calamities, fires everywhere. This right now as we speak, there's massive fires going on in California. There's been fires in Australia. There's massive earthquakes and volcanic eruptions across the earth. All this is connected to the release of density, of duality. And this is a natural part of the cycle of life. So as more light comes in, the light is revealing and releasing the darkness. They're not two separate things. It's not a battle between dark and light and good and evil. That's one way of perceiving it. That's a very dualistic way, a third dimensional way to perceive this. But from a higher dimensional view, what we're experiencing now is that the more light that comes in, the more it reveals and releases the darkness from where it has been hidden in the human collective. And as this gets released, our vibrational frequency changes, we can receive more cosmic light. There's an intense barrage of cosmic rays entering into the Earth's atmosphere right now. And there's certainly natural aspects to this which cause certain phenomena, including earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes, and so on. But there's also consciousness aspects where this begins to unravel and activate new possibilities within our DNA. It allows us to reconnect with our higher bodies. What happens when the bodies separate during the collapse of the Earth's magnetic field? When the Earth's magnetic field reverses, they realign. And in this realignment, it's like a reboot of planetary consciousness, just like a computer. It's not working, you turn it off and you reboot it. So in this reboot, new potentials become available. A new wave of creative energy becomes possible. New DNA emerges into creation. And Gaia is in charge. So remember, it's not just about what we are going through as humans, but it's what Gaia, as a living planetary consciousness, is experiencing. And this is her evolution. This is her initiation. We are simply a part of it, and we can support her. So this cycle of next evolution that we're entering into, what does it look like? How can we co-create? How can we participate? And this is the big question that we can ask ourselves now. How can we consciously participate in an act of creation? Much of it has to do with releasing our projections, our fears, our sense of duality, which is simply a perception, it's not real. So what that means is embracing everything that we've been taught to project, to deny, and to be afraid of. Embracing it with the understanding that who we are is all there is. It's not an opposite of dark and light. It's an embracing of all aspects of our being which have been fragmented, which have been projected, which have been shattered, which have been buried inside ourselves personally as well as our collective humanity. Which basically means acknowledging that there's a deeper process at work. If we do not understand what this process is, it's very easy to go into fear and despair. But once we begin to understand what's behind this, then we can align with that. We can align with higher levels of the mind, higher levels of consciousness. Allow the soul, the body of bliss, the Anandamaya Kosha that the Hindus refer to penetrate through the subtle bodies, through the physical body, into the body of the earth. And this is what many systems of yoga, especially integral yoga, is about. This is what the Egyptian initiations were about. This is what the Tibetan initiations were about. This is what all the revelationary paths have been about. It's about acknowledging and accepting that creative aspect within us. When we truly accept this, we go beyond the duality, because there's no more anything outside of us to resist. We experience ourselves as all of this. There's no inside, there's no outside. Time itself begins to shift. So, in the third dimensional, what we call third dimensional reality, we see time as linear. We move from some kind of memory of the past, because it's no longer real anymore, into this very tiny moment of the present, into a mysterious future. We are not fully present, even though we call this the present, because most of our energy is trapped in the past and the future. As we step out of linear time, as we step out of third dimensional, rational, dualistic consciousness, we allow ourselves to open and expand to other frequencies of time, where time becomes synchronistic, where past and future merge into a more expanded present. Basically, a more expanded presence, a divine presence that begins to incarnate through the physical body. And once this begins to happen, we experience the power of creation working through us in a way that we could not otherwise imagine. We begin to access higher levels of the mind. Sri Aurobindo, for instance, talks about the higher mind, the illumined mind, the intuitive mind, the overmind, and finally the supermind, all aspects of the divine presence. There's also levels of the mind within the body. We don't think about this so much, but there's a wisdom within every cell of our body, which is quite different from the rational intellect. But this wisdom has the power to actually transform existence itself. When we're talking about new DNA potentials, this has to do with this level of the mind, a cellular wisdom. And this wisdom has to do with DNA, it has to do with a relationship with nature, with Gaia, with the elemental forces, and it's something that we can begin to enter into now in a whole new way. This is what this cycle is about. This particular cycle that we're entering into now. We're moving out of the Kali Yuga. In fact, we've already moved out. We are now in what's called the Dwapara Yuga, which is an age of energy. New energies are being activated. New potentials are being awakened, which is giving us the potential now to bring all these different levels of body, mind, and spirit together. All these levels of the mind beyond the rational mind that we're entering in. All these levels of the mind below the rational mind are connecting. And together we become creators. In the shamanic traditions, they talk about the upper worlds, lower worlds, and the middle world. In the Quero Inca tradition from South America, they speak about the upper world and the lower world being actually connected directly with each other. So it's not about going up in this direction or going down, it's both and. So you open the door to the upper world, to the higher levels of the mind, you're simultaneously opening the door to lower levels of the mind within physical form and consciousness. So this is, to me, really key to our awakening. So in my awareness, we've already built a supramental world which coexists with this current reality. But we haven't built the bridges, we haven't built the connection from this world to the supramental world. We are locked, we are trapped in a linear version of time and history, and it's time now to break out of this. There's a US secret government project that was known as Project Looking Glass, where they were able to construct devices to experience possibilities in the future and then change the present in order to create a different timeline for the future. And what they saw was that beyond a certain time, much as they could manipulate things until then, it wasn't possible to manipulate time or events or human history any further. In other words, beyond this point, there was an inexorable intention that would be manifested no matter what. This is what we're talking about. Once we get to this point, which we're getting to now, I feel that this period of time from 2012 to 2020 has been like a passageway, a birthing tunnel. where we could have gone either way. One timeline had to do with destruction, devastation, complete breakdown of all systems, and possible destruction of our planetary ecosphere. Another timeline had to do with an organic awakening. Gaia beginning to move into her own luminous potential as we, as humans, open to the higher levels of consciousness, so we can be the bridge from the supramental world to the physical worlds. My sense is that we have already now begun to move into this supramental timeline. It will not be possible to extinguish ourselves in this cycle. Like we spoke of earlier, the seventh universal cycle is one of continuous progression, endless evolution. It's not about awakening and then dying off, in these continuing waves. Even when we talk about reincarnation, it's about learning what we can in one lifetime, letting go of a physical body, reconfiguring everything that we've learned in a lifetime into the soul, and then coming back to learn things all over again, to evolve further. So that's one paradigm that we are moving out from, and we're passing into a paradigm of continual, endless, upward evolution. This has to do with the supramental world. This is the timeline that we are entering into now. So if we can understand what this cycle is and why this time is so important, then we can surrender to this in trust. Because until we know, we cannot trust. And when we think that everything is falling down all around us, it's very easy to go into despair and to hopelessness. I want to remind you of a myth from the Greek period. So this is the story of Pandora. And the story goes that the gods had given this wonderful gift to Pandora. And this had to do, this box, Pandora's box, had to do with infinite potentials that existed within humanity, which would be awakened at some point. But they said, it's not yet time for you to open this. Guard it, keep it secret, but don't open it. And of course, being who she was, being what we are, the first thing she did was try and take a peek. And instantly what happened is that all the ills of the world flew rampant. And she quickly closed it in horror. What was left in the box was the one thing that could fix all of our human ills, and this was hope, a true hope. And this hope had to do with who we truly are, what our true potential is, with these cycles of human, planetary, galactic evolution. And this hope is now being revealed. It can only be revealed in the right timing, because until that right timing, we're not yet ready for this. Now it's time for Pandora's box to be opened once again, for hope to be unveiled, for us to remember who we are, what we are, why we are here now, at this moment, incarnate in this transition period where the full potential of creator consciousness can be discovered and embodied. So we have this galactic wave coming through from the center of a galaxy. It's a creative wave. It's new creation. It's not been explored. It's not been experienced before. We will look at these energies, perceive these energies from what is familiar, from what is known, in the past. And because of our fixation with the past, we find it difficult to open up to the great mystery, to the potential of what could be. It's like we're in a rut, and we continue to go through this rut over and over again. Cycles of human history are all about this. But now this potential is here. If we can let go of all our expectations, trust, surrender, and open to a divine flow moving through us, a supramental force seeking to incarnate itself, then something new can happen. Not through human effort. Our role in all this is not to make anything happen. Our role is simply to be a vehicle, to serve as a bridge, and this divine consciousness does whatever is necessary. Creator consciousness, primordial consciousness, enters through our physical being into creation to transform creation. So this is where all the polarities come together. Spirit and matter, heaven and earth, spirit and body, human, divine, all the different levels of the mind, all the different aspects of our being, all the way from the deeply physical to infinite spiritual. So this is how I see the potential for this time. And of course, we create our journey. We all have free will to experience what we need to in the midst of all this. And it could be that there's going to be many different sub-timelines playing themselves out according to what's needed by various people at various times. But generally speaking, I feel that we have crossed the point of no return. We cannot go back into the darkness that we've suffered through for all these long ages. It appears to be a difficult time. It appears to be chaotic. But this is simply because the darkness is now emerging into consciousness, whereas before it was unconscious. So this 3 days of darkness is really about entering into the heart of matter and transforming it, transmuting it. It's an alchemy. And when I talk about alchemy, alchemy is not the same as transformation. Transformation is you take something that's, that is perceived as negative, and change it into something that's perceived as positive. Transformation of emotions, transformation of healing of traumas. But transmutation is where your perception itself has changed. What this means is that you're no longer seeing things in terms of polarity, duality, right and wrong. And in the act of seeing things fully as completely perfect and divine as it is, there's something within it which changes. Energy starts to move. What has been stuck begins to flow, and darkness is revealed as light. So it's not that dark and light are two sides. They're not polarized as a battle, but they're two sides of the same coin. They're both part of each other. They're both necessary to perceive truly. So this is the cycle that we're moving into now. As we move into Satyuga, the age of truth, the age of light, we are releasing the illusion of darkness. So what I'd like to do in the time we have is maybe a meditation based on the South American Inca tradition. And all the different practices that I've studied, the meditation teachings I've explored, this one to me, simple as it is the most profound. Because it's based on the knowing that there's no duality. So I'll just guide you through this instead of talking about it beforehand. So let's do this together. So just find a place where you can sit comfortably, keep your spine straight, take a couple deep breaths. Become aware of the physical body. And now notice that around the physical body, about 6 feet out in all directions, or 2 meters out in all directions, there's a luminous bubble of light. So this is what the shamans refer to as the middle world. The middle world is our normal human experience of reality. So our thoughts, our feelings, our sense of the personal self, our physical senses, the rational mind, our ability to navigate in this reality, the third dimensional world. So all this is bounded within this luminous bubble. It's our personal aura. So all of our thoughts, our feelings, our fears, our illusions, our hopes, our dreams are somehow held within this bubble of light. And what we're going to do now is open up a doorway to the upper world and to the lower world. The upper world is the world of spirit. The lower world is the world of nature. So imagine that there's a window. So you visualize this bubble of light. It extends 6 feet or 2 meters all the way around, including over the top of your head. And this window is located at the very top of this bubble. So it's like a circular window, an aperture. And you can open this as wide as you want, when you want. So you open this window now, wider and wider. And as soon as you open this, without any effort on your part, there's a stream of light that starts pouring in from the upper world. It's a very high frequency of electrical light. It's transmutive. It's cleansing. As it moves through the lower bodies, through the emotional, mental, etheric and physical bodies, it starts to clear out and release the density, what they refer to as hucha, just belief systems, traumas, illnesses that we've carried in the physical body as a reflection of these traumas. These are all vibrational frequencies. And in response to this very high frequency of electrical light, these old frequencies begin to break apart and release. And it just happens as an intelligence within life, within this electrical force of light that knows exactly what needs to be done. So just imagine that, feel that. There's no effort on your part, it's simply allowing this work to happen. The Incas say that everything in the universe is alive, everything is conscious. And this consciousness, just like the Hindus would say, is infinite source. It is primordial consciousness. And so this is the electrical force that we're experiencing. Coming in through the window, we're experiencing this primordial consciousness entering the lower bodies, transmuting blocked energies, aberrant belief systems, old fears and traumas, physical dis-ease, releasing those heavy energies down into the earth. So just allow this. It's like standing under a waterfall of light. It's a continuous cleansing process. Just keep that window open. That's all you need to do. Open it as wide as you can. Continue to open it wider and wider as you bathe in these beautiful, life-giving frequencies. There's another aspect in the Inca Quero tradition which I really appreciate, and this is their understanding of reciprocity. It's like the second law of thermodynamics. Basically, it's saying whenever there's a movement in one direction, there's a response, there's a reaction, and there's a movement in the opposite direction. And the same applies to every system, every living system. And the Incas say everything is living, so everything is an extension of this law of reciprocity. And so as soon as you have this electrical frequency pouring down from the sky through the lower bodies and into the earth, there's a response from the earth. And you begin to feel these beautiful magnetic frequencies of light coming up from deep inside the earth, up through the physical, etheric, emotional and mental bodies, continuing to move up through every cell of the body, through the window, back up to the sky. So this is like a geyser, like an artesian well, a fountain of light, continually pouring upwards, even as this waterfall of light from above continues to pour downwards. The only difference is that whereas the downward flow is electrical, the upward flow is magnetic. So it's very healing, very nurturing. It's the unconditional love from Mother Earth, totally accepting and welcoming of everything that you are, everything you feel, everything you've ever done, everything you've ever thought or imagined. It's all perfect. There's no judgment. There's no condemnation of any sort. And so as you receive this frequency of light from the earth, you're drinking in this gift of unconditional love, releasing forever all the fears that you've carried, all the duality, beliefs in separation, insecurity, the need to control and manipulate in order to feel safe. And so as these two frequencies continue to move back and forth, you feel an expansion as these electrical and magnetic forces interact. It naturally creates a connection with the next level of being, which is the causal body, the soul, the Atman. This level of your being operates outside of linear time, and you find yourself entering into a point of stillness where you naturally open to this causal frequency. You find yourself expanding out through space, out through time. There's no inside and outside. The bubble continues to expand and expand further and further out. You feel yourself connecting with the soul of the earth. Becoming one with all of life on this earth. And then extending further out through the solar system, feeling all of that within your own body, your own solar body. Subtler and subtler fields of awareness as you continue to expand out across the galaxy, out across the universe, out to the very boundaries of time and space within what we call the physical or material universe. And then breaking through that boundary, breaking out through time and space into the infinite self. Absolute stillness, presence, and light. So the doorways between the worlds are completely open. And this presence of light that you are begins to incarnate through all the different aspects of being, all the different aspects of creation. So this light incarnates through our physical universe as we prepare for this next leap to the seventh universe. It begins to incarnate into our own galaxy as we prepare to receive the next galactic superwave. It incarnates through our sun and our solar system. As we prepare for the next wave of light due from our sun, a massive wave which in the past has been enormously destructive and which this time we can receive with gratitude as an agent of purification and new creation. We receive this light into the heart of our planet, into the heart of Gaia, joining with her consciousness, permeating through all forms of life upon this earth. And we incarnate this infinite consciousness into our own physical body, the human body that we are presently learning to incarnate through. We bring this all the way through, ground it into the deep earth. So it's these electrical and magnetic forces that allow for this expansion and this grounding to take place. It's not through effort. We don't need to try to do anything, visualize anything, ask for anything. Simply keep that window open and allow. There's nothing that Creator wishes more than to be present, fully incarnate, here and now. All we're doing is allowing, surrendering, trusting. And then we become the agents of change. We become co-creators, through which a great awakening can happen. This is what we are born for. This is why we are here. So I thank each of you for being here on this earth to join together in this great work, to participate in this Third World Conference on Spirituality, which is bringing everyone together in the greatest adventure we can imagine. I am here now, fully present, engaged, open, willing, connected to all life in physical creation. I am here as embodiment of primordial consciousness, emanating through the material universe. It's the joining of the Great Mother and the Great Father. It's the awakening of Gaia as a living, co-creative consciousness. So thank you for joining me and participating in this work together. Namaste. We're all connected. We're all relatives. We are one.